Trade and Industry Minister Ebrahim Patel joins me now to discuss exactly what is going to be done to get businesses back on their feet. Minister, thank you so much for your time. I listened to your briefing earlier. You spoke about the importance of re-establishing supply lines, repairing businesses, addressing the issue of loss of wages, bridging funding for businesses. But you also spoke about rebuilding business confidence. And I'm wondering which is going to be a harder task, rebuilding these businesses in terms of bricks and mortar and bridging finance, or rebuilding confidence in South Africa as an investment destination from a global point of view, but also for a small business person who is broken-hearted at what they've been through recently.
Sally, good evening to you and to all the viewers. Clearly, rebuilding business confidence is going to be the tough one, because businesses look for a long time horizon. They want to be able to see that there is security and stability. But the speed with which we are able to begin to do the brick and mortar will help to build and boost business confidence. I've met with some foreign investors over the last week and a half, and I must say that there's a very positive attitude. People do realize that South Africa is defending rule of law, that our judiciary is independent, that its decisions are the basis for everybody's action. And so that gives comfort to investors. But we need to do more. We need to be able to create greater stability. And stability cannot be done only through the work of the security forces. It also requires a more inclusive economy. So when I was in Isitebe on Monday, I spoke to the mayor and to the business people there, and we've launched now an imbizo, a conversation between the community and business people to address from both sides the concerns, because those who wish to create chaos and so on, they feed off the frustration of local communities, and we need to address that frustration. So bricks and mortar and business confidence will have to be tackled together. Yes, it's absolutely heartbreaking. As I walk through, businesses that were looted and damaged and destroyed, many by small business people. People have put their life savings into it. People have put their heart into it. I could see in their faces that this has been more than just financial loss. It's a real blow. But I also saw, Sally, a really strong optimism about the future, a sense of rebuilding. We're in this together. We're going to pick ourselves up, and we are going to get our businesses started again. That was also part of what I received as a message.
And of course now we're hearing from the KwaZulu-Natal Premier that he's had to declare a state of disaster in the province because of course it's been, the long-term impact of what COVID has done, then the unrest earlier in July, and the cyber attack on our ports. And I'm wondering what you make of it. Do you, and we know that the details aren't clear, but do you think there could be a link between the cyber attack on the ports and what our president calls the attempted insurrection that happened?
Sally, at this point, there's no indication at all that the two are linked. But of course, as more information becomes available, my colleague, Praveen Gordon, will make that public. Now, the question of cyber attacks, the United States, many businesses in the US have been under enormous cyber attacks to the point where President Biden has made that public issue, is raised that very openly, is made an accusation against particular countries. And many South African businesses over the last 12, 15 months have been the subject of it. It points to the need that we will have to address cybersecurity much more diligently across our economy. COVID showed us one vulnerability. It's not the only one. Climate change is another vulnerability. And clearly, cyber attacks and digital integration and the insecurities that potentially can be exploited is yet another one.
Yeah. A little earlier this evening, I spoke to Dr. Lumkile Monde of Wits University, economist, as I'm sure you're aware. He was fairly critical of a government, and I just want you to have a listen to what he said, because I want to give you a chance to respond. He really feels that, particularly around small business, government has let those people down and not made it easy for them to do business. Let's just take a listen.
Is that that government department has failed small and micro enterprises, and putting all the conditions and requirements when we know that they struggle with working capital. So some of them will use even the grant money that comes through to try and supplement their working capital. I've mentioned the electricity and water challenges. So the reality is that until government really comes closer to understand this business and also recruits business people in these business-orientated functions, such as the Department of Trade and Industry, such as Department of Small Business Development, even agriculture, get farmers there, because they are critical, particularly for the small towns where we would like to see more growth to try and reinvigorate the smaller towns that have got more numbers, so that to continue to have hope in those areas, because the alternative there, unemployment is very, very high. So really, what we're hearing from this government is the same story. Money is available, but small, medium enterprises look for the money, they can't get it.
So he's raised a few issues then. I'm going to crystallize it down to just three. First of all, and we saw this with some businesses trying to claim COVID relief, that it became very difficult, full of red tape, really tricky. And we know the ongoing problems, that it's hard to open a business. There's lots of paperwork. It's not an easy process. And I think that's what he's saying, is that in many ways we need business people at the top, perhaps within your department, who get what it is to be trying to run a small enterprise, who get what it's like to try and be competitive. So a comment on that, and also this concern about the condition of requirements for those businesses who have been affected by the unrest. I mean, I want to know, for example, if foreign businesses will be helped. We know that they've got to be tax compliant, but if you've missed a tax return, are you really going to hold that against someone? What about unregistered business? So many small businesses haven't got the paperwork done. I'm sorry, I'm throwing lots of questions at you, but have a go anyway.
I think they're all fair questions, Sally. So I think it's good that you've raised this, because these are questions that South Africans are asking. And let me start first by saying that on the big issue that's raised by Lumkile Monde, that one needs to have people with business experience in public agencies, I think that's absolutely right. You look at a number of our agencies, the Industrial Development Corporation, which Lumkile Monde used to work for, in fact has a number of people who come from the private sector, who run businesses, who know the difficulties, and who use their knowledge and expertise. We also bring business people onto their boards, because the boards govern the management and make sure that they have procedures that are in place. So in the case of the small business agencies that fall under the leadership of my colleague, I know that she has small business people who serve on those boards. I think it's one of the most difficult mandates in government is that of Minister Chaveni, because she has an enormous challenge of supporting literally hundreds of thousands, if not potentially millions of small and micro enterprises. And she has a very limited budget. And so what she's doing and what we're doing to support her and to back her is to find new partnerships and new ways of doing things, because the sheer quantum of money available in the state could never meet the demand that's out there. So what are we doing? The one is to get larger businesses to play a more active role in supporting small businesses in their own supply chain. We've done that through cooperation and collaboration, but we've also done it by changing the law, the competition law of South Africa, to enable small business to have a fighting chance. Give an example. If a large supermarket buys bread from any of the big players and a small spaza shop buys bread to on-sell, in virtually every instance, the large retailer gets the bread at a lower price. So they can outcompete that small business. And so in the competition law now, there is a provision that requires that any unfair pricing practices be the subject of investigation by the authorities. So sometimes South Africans would say, but do you really need to pass laws and do these things? It's because we see the problems out there that small businesses face that we need to equalize the playing fields. On the question of which businesses will qualify, we've not closed the door and indicated that there will only be one category of businesses. Of course, those businesses that are insured, that have SASRIA cover, already have an opportunity to get their support, but even they may need bridging funding because it takes a bit of time for those insurance claims to be evaluated and paid out. So one part of what we're seeking to do is bridging funding. There are smaller businesses, medium-sized businesses, and micro businesses, which includes the informal sector, a number of whom don't have the kind of SASRIA cover for an event of this nature. We don't want to close the door to them. Our constraint, of course, is the size of the available budget against the requirement of what businesses need. So we're going to have to do some careful balancing, but we've not closed the door to any category. And we have said we want to try to help informal businesses to survive this period, to strengthen themselves, and in fact, even to formalize their own operations. On the question of foreign-owned businesses, there are small foreign-owned businesses and there are large foreign-owned businesses. And I visited a foreign-owned business in the Pinetown area on Monday this week and engaged with the business. They will require very significant capital, but their big issue is not the money because they will have insurance cover. Their big issue is maintaining security for their staff and, importantly, getting orders from customers should they decide to rebuild their factory. And that's, I think, where we're focusing now. The key thing around red tape is not only to address it in a period like this, but generally. We created, years ago, Sally, many of the listeners will know that when they wanted to open a new company and register it, it would take weeks. They would have to pay a consultant who would be based in Pretoria and does the work for them. Now we've created an online system. It's called BizPortal. Within a couple of hours, you can register your business, you can register for tax, you can open a bank account, you can even get a domain name, you can register for the UIF, and you can register for the compensation fund. It's one way in which we're trying to make it easier for young people and for entrepreneurs to get out there, to open businesses, to create jobs.
I hear you. I want to ask you just quickly on the foreign businesses. You spoke about big foreign businesses. I'm thinking, for example, and we've seen this in a lot of small towns around KwaZulu-Natal, where the local trading store was completely looted. What if that small business and that small shop is owned by a foreigner? Will that person be able to qualify?
I think at this stage, they can be encouraged to put in an application. One of the things that all the applications will have to go through, Sally, is an evaluation. What is the impact of that business? How quickly can we get it started? What's the capital that they require? And what's the local economic multiplier? So, for example, if you have one shop in a town, and it's the only shop and it's been damaged, we need to move quicker and be as active as we can be to get them to start operations as quickly as possible.
I hear you. So
we've not
Sorry to jump in. So they will be encouraged to put in an application, which is not an emphatic yes, but at the same time, you have to make sure that people don't take advantage of the system. Very quickly, how soon will these businesses in distress be able to at least apply for some assistance? Are we talking a few weeks still? Or a few days? How are you going to communicate where they must go? Is it going to be all over the websites? Just very quickly explain that plan, because that's crucial as well, the communication of it.
Yes. So the first applications can begin rolling in from next week, Sally. In fact, we've already been able to get some of our development agencies to reach out where businesses have contacted them actively and said, we've suffered loss, we've got damage. The Industrial Development Corporation provided me earlier this afternoon with a number of businesses that have already approached them for support. So we'll be simplifying it and making it possible for businesses to put in their applications within days rather than weeks.
Thank you so much for your time this evening. It is much appreciated. That's the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition Minister, Ebrahim Patel there.